Well, good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be part of this event. I think that we're on day 2, and the progress, the insights, the wealth of information, and sharing of experiences comes out as really valuable for participants, for financiers, for all stakeholders. So I encourage us to have another fascinating discussion following the ministerial, where we can take, and you take maybe on the issues discussed. And of course, it's issues of energy security and issues of climate change, the twin challenge, so to say. Before we proceed, and before I introduce the esteemed panel, a couple of housekeeping points. This session is on record. I would encourage everybody to go on social media using Twitter handles that you will see on the screen and the hashtag Clean Energy Outlook. We plan to have 15 minutes for Q&A session, so please stay tuned, and please, let's kick off. So I'm really delighted to be joined today by, and I read out the names of key policymakers in the key region of EBRD. So Mr. Sherzod Hojayev, Deputy Minister of Energy, Republic of Uzbekistan, Sarbon Khalmuhamadzada, Deputy Minister of Energy and Water Resources, Republic of Tajikistan, Romia Mikautadze, Deputy Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development from Georgia, Elnur Sultanov, Deputy Minister of Energy, Republic of Azerbaijan, Aynur Sospanova, Board Member of Kazakh Green Association, and really delighted to have a woman on this panel, and Mr. Taalaybek Tolubayev, Deputy Minister of Energy, Kyrgyz Republic. So the discussion today would be centering around the challenges that countries and region faces and how those challenges are reconciled, the energy security challenges, how those challenges are reconciled with the long-term decarbonization plans. Let me start with Georgia, please. Romeo, if you could maybe share your views, what Georgia brings to the table at COP in Sharm el-Sheikh in less than a month, please.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Atlantic Council and the EBRD, to organize such an important meeting, conference, and it's a good opportunity to discuss about very important issue. I represent my country, Georgia. I'm from Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development, and why I mentioned about my ministry, because in Ministry of Economy collected many directions of economy, such as transport, IT, tourism, and trading, and many more. But of course, all this direction, if we are talking about how we develop this direction, need more electricity, more power. And of course, the dependence to energy sector, it's very high. And if we want to develop different sectors, the main issue is to develop energy sector. Without this, without development of energy sector, without development some clean energy and any direction in fields of energy, it's impossible to talk about how we develop another directions. In my country is a lot of potential of hydro, and now we are in close cooperation with the International Monetary Fund to make a new support scheme in energy sector. Support scheme which help investors, support investors to attract investment in energy sector. On this way, of course, it's very important to not only utilize your sources, but of course develop some connectivities with connections with neighbor countries and diversify not only generation objects, but of course the transmission objects. And I want to emphasize about a very important project. This is under Black Sea cable, submarine cable, which is now in a stage of development feasibility study, and Italian company prepare for Georgian government for our TSO owned by Georgia government feasibility study, and after this we will have more clear picture, but I'm sure it will be feasible because if we see globally what's happening around Georgia, if we see trends in energy sector, gas prices, electricity prices, consumption, everything is increased, these all items give me a chance to emphasize this project will be feasible. And after this project, then we trying to find some financial closing, yes, and I think it's good opportunity to your intention, EBRD intention, and of course all of IFIs to manage this process, because this new connectivity, this new connection with the direct connection, this is very important, direct connection with the EU market, with the European market is, I think, the most important project in our region, in region of South Caucasus, and of course this project help with the new support scheme investors to attract investment in Georgia. We talk about generation, but of course we don't forget about energy efficiency. Energy efficiency also is very important issue, and we adopted several laws in our country, of course, according the EU regulations, and as you know, we I joined in energy community 2017, and after this we take some obligations, and step by step we according to care this. And yes, political will also is very important, and if we conclude this three direction, I mean development of renewable energy sources, second one is energy efficiency, and adopted on the way of energy efficiency, of course, and the third is political will. I think my country, and of course in your country also, I think same, more or less same situation. It will be our energy security, it's our economy security, and how can I call, but anyway, this is very important for each country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roma. You touched on a very interesting topic that I don't think we've covered extensively these 2 days. It's the regional connectivity and what it means for the scale-up of renewables. First of all, intermittent renewables systems need to be balanced. Cross-regional connectivity will help with that. It's also, as you mentioned, it's the issue of energy security and actually ability and capacity to build more of renewable domestic sources. And of course, it's cross-regional integration, it's peace, and it's trade, and it's all pluses. So really a fascinating subject. Maybe we can develop more on it. Ainur, what is your thinking? What is the thinking of Kazakhstan, given Kazakhstan is plowing ahead with renewables built up? Maybe you could share what's the thinking of cross-regional coordination across the grid.
Если говорить про региональное сотрудничество по развитию возобновляемых
on development of renewable energy sources, I think that development of renewable energy is easier done as a region altogether. And for Central Asia, it's not only an issue of kilowatt hours, but also energy and water security issue. Since the situation is as following, in Kazakhstan, more than 70% of coal generation is present, but there are many territories where we can install renewables, and there is a huge political will towards this area. In Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, there is a huge potential on hydropower plants, and also there is gas-based generation, natural gas generation in Uzbekistan, and there is a policy on this in this area. We can say that we, as a Central Asian region, we can use this huge potential, and we can help each other to develop renewable energy sources. There are many good examples in Europe. For example, in North Pool energy system, they help each other and support each other in development of renewable energy sources. Why they could succeed, but we cannot? Of course, we can succeed as well. We only need the will of all of the countries that are part of our region, and we need a good feasibility study to be conducted to make sure we can demonstrate the basis for our work when we are speaking about which country is responsible for what and how much it will give to the economy of the country. And in this situation, in this case, not only in energy sector, but also in water issues, we will have a security. Thank you.
That, yes, cross-regional would be cheaper and easier to deployment of renewables. But are these renewables coming in Kazakhstan at scale that would need this cross-regional integration? Will we see gigawatts of renewables?
Kazakhstan is now, I can say as following. The history of Kazakhstan renewables started in 2009 when we adopted the according law. Before we have determined in 2013 the tariffs, we had no investors. In 2014, we had the first project that was financed by the European Bank, and in 2014 and 15, we had a big solar power plant project, which was started in the south of Kazakhstan. And it was a breakthrough. At the moment, we have 2.2 gigawatts in our system as power plants, and also we have the same amount planned, and the tenders are already finalized and the contracts signed. At the moment, the Ministry of Energy is working on establishing a renewable energy zone, and this is another mechanism. This is another mechanism when we have many gigawatts of renewable energy power plants installed in different parts of Kazakhstan. This is going to affect the tariffs for sure. And these are challenges not only to a political will, but also to the technical equipment, to the technical potential that we have, because the system of our national electricity, they will not be happy with such a volatile energy supply in the middle of Kazakhstan. But this is what the world best practices are at the moment, and we think that it will be much cheaper to have such gigawatt installed in our country. This system is going to be implemented, and it will be simplifying our lives.
With cross-regional integration. Ilur, over to you maybe. This fascinating project, the forward-looking project connecting to Europe, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania. What's your outlook on cross-regional integration with keeping in mind the renewable scale-up?
Thank you very much, Aida, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we are looking forward to that project, and we have gladly established this working group in Romania, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. The first meeting already held. And by the way, Azerbaijani side also has prepared an MOU for 4 countries. It's Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and Hungary also. Because we believe, of course, we are quite optimistic at the start. We believe that the current 1,000 megawatt line that our Georgian counterparts, colleagues are working on for the feasibility of might need some additions, given the huge, again, Caspian offshore wind resources that we have. I said the number is 157 gigawatts of energy when the total installed capacity in Azerbaijan is 20 times less than that. So, as we develop it, and again, we have, I mentioned before in our earlier panel, we have 710 megawatts in the pipeline, but we also signed 10 gigawatt to be developed by one multinational corporation. Another one is coming. And these projects also include, by the way, the production of hydrogen, the strategy of which hydrogen strategy is being prepared by EBRD, and we are thankful for that. We are going to be, of course, connecting the dots. So we believe that the resources are so huge, and again, given the energy prices in Azerbaijan, which are quite low, scale is needed to be able to attract investors because we want to go with the current prevailing prices in Azerbaijan. So you have to increase the scale so that price goes down to the level that's acceptable for the government and to the level that is acceptable without additional subsidies, right, premiums that is going to be paid by the government. But when the scale goes up, Azerbaijan alone is not able to absorb all that electricity, so we have to export part of that. Of course, storage technologies including hydrogen as storage would be crucial, but at the same time, without exports, it's not possible. So therefore, as I said before, parallel to our southern gas corridor, we are thinking about green corridor now. And one more important probably thing that my colleagues have alluded to, I want to build on that, that it's not just about exporting your excess green energy to Europe, in European direction. It's also about connectivity, because as you know, energy systems are more resilient as they are more and more interconnected. And the Caucasus is not the best part of the world in that regard. Regional conflicts plus Caspian Sea, we are grateful for the Caspian, for God, but still it creates some distances which doesn't facilitate interconnections. We have Iran and Armenia in one synchronous zone right now. Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Russia are on another synchronous zone. But the power of the lines that connect us is not enough to save each other in case something goes wrong. So this connection all the way to Europe will be important in that regard as well, right? So it will keep the whole system stable. In case something goes wrong, you can balance the system. And as you know, with the coming of the intermittent renewable energy, system stability becomes an even bigger issue. So in that sense, what the importance of this project also should be looked at from that angle.
Thank you very much, Elnur. Indeed, you mentioned interconnection as a sort of enabling factor for scale-up of renewables and potentially going into green hydrogen at some point. And this is a phenomenon that we're seeing a lot of hype about, but we're also seeing concrete projects emerging. They're not in gigawatt scale, but they are in our region, and we want to be able to finance them at some point. We're actually looking at financing some of them. So maybe over to Shehzad, to you, Uzbekistan with its gigawatts, 12 gigawatts by 2030 of wind and solar. You have an outlook for green hydrogen as well. What does regional connectivity mean for Uzbekistan?
Thank you, Aida. Regional connectivity is very important. Maybe it's the most important point to the plans of Uzbekistan on energy transition. And I think we have already started these activities. Together with Tajikistan, we have an agreement to develop 2 hydro projects, and it will help us to integrate our systems to each other. And again, with Kyrgyzstan, we just about to sign an agreement to develop, jointly development, it's a 3 countries project, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan, which is Kambarata hydropower plant with the installed capacity is 1900 megawatt. It's huge. Switch off this. And since Uzbekistan has very strong interconnection, I mean the grid interconnected already between Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Kazakhstan. It would be very helpful for us, not just to export and import electricity, but to keep unified grid sustainable. And of course, rely on this interconnectivity. We develop our program on renewables. As you rightly mentioned, we have very ambitious plans. I just want to bring some figures. If currently the renewables shares in overall electricity production in Uzbekistan is about 8%, we are planning to reach 25%, basically tripling the installed capacity by 2026. So it will be 25% of share. At the same time, we can see that the economy of the country is growing. It's about 6% per year, while electricity consumption is growing more than 10% per year. So it's quite challenging to keep this momentum, but at the same time to keep affordable prices for the electricity. In that sense, regional interconnectivity will help us, all of us actually, to keep prices lower than if we would go standing alone every system. And I'd like to thank all IFIs who are supporting us with this program, regional interconnectivity. And I think in the nearest future, we will get benefits and we can see that it will be even more helpful for not only to the power system of the countries, but also to whole economy, because it will open new horizons for local manufacturers who can supply some goods to these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And we participate in the Uzbek power sector. We're trying to support, and we really look forward to those gigawatts coming online and the cross-regional system supporting these ambitious targets. So really, really well done. Moving on to Kyrgyzstan. Talay, you have a country which is heavily dominated by hydropower generation. What is it for Kyrgyzstan that would be benefiting from the cross-regional interconnection point of view?
Спасибо, Аида. Здравствуйте.
Thank you, Aida. Hello, dear participants. Thank you. I want to thank all the organizers of this conference. We in Kyrgyzstan, we are a very rich in water resources. We produce power energy, more than 90% we produce on hydro stations. For today, we consume up to 10% of water resources and huge stations, and 5% of resources we use and small stations. Collective work in the region, for all of us, it is very a big advantage. We support each other. This is important. We also have an opportunity to use maximum of our resources. So for today, we work to increase the capacity of small hydropower station and big hydro stations. For today also, we are working on this question with our neighbor countries, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, concerning building of power electric station 1, and with the help of investors, we are working on increasing the capacity of Kamaratinskaya power station 2. This gives us an opportunity not only of energy security, but it also gives us possibility for water regime. So it means that our future, or the future of our the future of our water and our water resources can be used by our neighbor countries. Concerning solar energy and GETRO, we have some works that we have done before. We are working on these questions this year, and we have accepted law, and we decided on tariffs on renewables, and that's why now we have increased hydro stations. We also hope that what we are doing today will help us in the future, will push us to support the green energy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Talay. And what I'm observing, and I am from this region, is that we have countries which are fossil fuel dominated, and we have countries which are hydropower rich. And it's finding that balance through interconnectedness, through the energy water nexus I know you mentioned before, that is really important. Well, I didn't mention, but the potential that utilized of hydros in Kyrgyzstan is just 10%. So much more can be built to support the cross-regional. And a great example of cross-regional cooperation is, of course, CASA 1000. So we are going to Tajikistan, and my question is to Sorbonne on how can we have more renewables to support projects like CASA 1000, which is bringing clean energy of Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan to northern Pakistan deficit region, and what's needed for Tajikistan to either scale up hydros or to go into non-hydros renewables? Please, over to you, Simon.
Thank you very much, Aida. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I would express my gratitude to Atlantic Council and EBRD for the organizing this impressive conference, and also I would like to thank Turkey for the hosting this conference, for the traditional hospitality as well. Thank you for question, Aida. As you mentioned, that Tajikistan is very hydropower rich country. I would make you more surprised to announce that only 5% of our potential already obtained. Yes, we have a great hydropower potential, and today the installed capacity around 6,500 megawatts, but it is just 5% of existing hydropower potential. And it means there is a huge scope of cooperation in this way, and we are always open for cooperation, not only for the interconnection through the grids. We are open for the joint implementation and joint projects on hydro, which we are doing right now very successfully with our partners from Uzbekistan. We are now established a joint entity, Taos Hydro, which is it means that on the first step we are going to construct in total hydropower plants with installed capacity more than 320 megawatts, and we are working on the first side right now, and this is the result of the very fruitful cooperation, neighborhood cooperation, I can say. Of course, the role of the regional transmission projects in this case is very great. For example, as I mentioned about project CASA 1000, this is really, I will find the linkage between the renewables, green energy, and CASA 1000. The CASA 1000 project starts from the Kyrgyzstan, come to Tajikistan, and goes to Afghanistan to Pakistan. What means the CASA 1000 project is fully green project. It makes, of course, the great sense for the social, for the economic development, for the Central South Asian countries, but it's fully green project because in Kyrgyzstan, about 90% of generation of electricity comes from the hydropower resource. In our country, the 95% comes from hydropower potential. It means this project is fully sustainable. Of course, for making this project, the interconnection around the renewables, Tajikistan makes the great efforts. Right now, we are on the process of rehabilitation of our hydropower plants. This is the Nurek hydropower plants with installed capacity 3,000 megawatts, Sarband hydropower plant, Kairokom hydropower plant, and the construction of the big hydropower plant, Ragun hydropower plant with installed capacity 3,780 megawatts. After the completion of the rehabilitation and construction of these projects in our country, additionally will arise and exist additional generation potential about 4,000 megawatts. And 70% of this potential will go for export. It means, how to say, there is the great and sustainable linkage between renewables and the regional cooperation. That's why we are always recognizing any interaction in this way. Of course, as my colleagues already mentioned about the project of reconnection to the United Central Grids, this is also our joint effort with our neighbored countries to bring more sustainability, to bring more how to say, to increase our contribution for the mitigation of climate change negative effects, because still our contribution in this regard very huge, because the volume of our green gas emissions and of the world is still 0.0003%. It is very small volume, but we are going to achieve in mid-term period pure zero. And our, how to say, our plans more optimistic. Our plan is the medium term. We are going to reach these achievements till the 2013. But as we defined today, for Turkey, it is, for example, His Excellency Deputy Minister mentioned in his announcement, that statement that it will be 2053, the zero of the decarbonization should be achieved. But in our country, we are going to achieve this target more earlier. It was briefly about interconnection and how to bring renewables to regional cooperation.
Yeah, they're all interconnected, and indeed, some countries are blessed with having hydros. There are issues with that as well, of course, like climate adaptation and you know, the melting glaciers and hydrology. But it's all, as we discussed at the ministerial, we are all together, and the regional interconnection should definitely help with that. And this is the theme in Europe and here, the Repower EU, the EU Green Deal, and maybe the Central Asian Caucasus region is slightly far out, but these are very important players still. So what do you think EU, MDBs, IFIs, financial institutions, private investment can do to help this region to realize its decarbonization targets while keeping in mind the energy security, of course? What's needed? Ainur.
Для того, чтобы реализовать планы по развитию возобновляемых
development of renewables on the national and on the regional levels, there should be a correct market built. Cost signals should be given not only to develop renewables, but only to integrate our energy system in more and more renewables. We have to develop digitalizations of energy system, of the network, and here it is very important to have correct markets built. In Kazakhstan, we are discussing the possibility of balancing a market of power, to have one supplier, to have correct market of energy sources, and in case if investors will see that we have a support system of such projects, we have a stimulating tariffs and an infrastructure that allows to connect energy sources and develop networks themselves, then investors will come to any of these projects that from the side of state will be supported by market mechanisms. From financial institutions sides or international organizations side, we definitely need help to make this market definitely built in a correct way, and then we will be able to say that regional connectivity and regional cooperation in each country will be effectively working and function.
Okay, no, so it's for institutional capacity building, helping with the market design. Interesting. I mean, I'm taking notes throughout the 2 days of what the IFIs and MDBs have to deliver. And Luro, what is your wish list?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Aida. Thank you so much. Yes, I think Europe is quite far, but as our experience, Azerbaijan's experience with oil and gas have shown, the farthest is not always the most costly one in the long run, right? So we had shorter options, shortcuts regarding oil and gas, and we were getting some lessons, lectures from some points that, you know what, take the shortcut, but we took a longer route, but eventually I think it has been proven that it's cheaper, right? Strategically speaking, economically speaking, eventually it has proven to be some of the best decisions we have ever made. So in that sense, I think distance should be, geographic distance should be added. We need to add to that some other factors, and then it kind of modifies our vision and shows that it may not be, it might be some of the most economic options actually, right, to get connected in that direction, because we have what we have. And unfortunately, besides the problems with connectivity, we are landlocked, which is also part of the problems with connectivity, right? Transportation-wise, we are not very much interconnected, and it creates its own problems. For instance, in Azerbaijan, regarding our offshore wind and solar projects, the only connection to the high seas, as you know, is Volga-Don Canal. And because of the war, there are new problems, and even that canal itself, it has huge logistical issues. So that creates all kinds of problems for the region. But still, to me, still we need to target what is the most optimal. And again, the most optimal is clearly pointing in a certain direction. And we are ready to go in that direction. And given the current prices, given the current situation, which seems to continue for a long time, we believe that economics will be there. Like connection to European markets might make sense. And again, as we talked about that, we are working on that. Second, to me, again, as we discussed during the first panel, ministerial, I think the place of gas should be clearly and consistently stated. What is it and how it's going to be supported beyond the demand, right? It's easy to say that we need it, but again, how are you going to support it so that it works? And this is also important. This is important for two reasons. First, natural gas, and mostly I believe in the region, including Azerbaijan, we are producing more than 95% of our electricity from natural gas. And as we add more renewable energy, the intermittency-wise natural gas power plants are very good in terms of responding to that intermittency. For system stability-wise, it's really important. Second, let's not forget that for regional states, mainly it's oil and gas that comes back and finances eventually our renewable energy projects, right? So in that aspect is also important. For a country like Azerbaijan, for Kazakhstan, it will be important in that sense as well. So again, we remain optimistic, but given the hands that we have been dealt, it will be a difficult, challenging, but very interesting road forward. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Noor. And again, I'm hearing the need for consistency with respect to gas role as a transition fuel in some of these countries. The gas role as a almost like financing source for the scale up of renewables. We are very happy to be financing 230 megawatt with Masdar in Azerbaijan, your first utility scale, which we congratulate you on. You touched on one aspect we didn't discuss is the disruption of supply chains and how it's impacting basically scale up of renewables in this region, not being even part of Europe per se. And I think, I mean, the collectiveness, the collective approach and response we see as a of all hands on deck approach could be part of the solution. And of course it takes, I mean, we are to some extent at the mercy of the geopolitics, but we can do what we can do, and it relates to financiers, to lenders, to insurance companies, to develop private developers who are coming into your region. But it's indeed a very big and interesting issue. So yes, it's great to have interconnections, it's great to scale up renewables, but if you can't get your, I don't know, wind turbines in time, it is a problem. Moving on to Uzbekistan, what can we do for you? Well, and when I say we mean wide AMDB community, private investors, commercial banks. Over to you, Shazad.
Thank you, Aida. We have developed our concept up to 2030. Regarding to that, power sector of Uzbekistan requires 20 billion investment in the nearest 8 years. We have confirmed 8 billion of them. We have already signed contracts with IPPs, and more than 60% of which renewables. The remaining 40% is new gas-fired power plants, which will come in the place of old retired units. But still, there is 12 billion to be confirmed, and it's huge investment, of course. And it is very important to prepare overall country strategy and legislation, which is maybe most important part of our work, to attract this investment. And thanks to IFIs, we have started this work 3 years back. And with the support of EBRD, we have prepared a new electricity law of Uzbekistan. With support of World Bank and other IFIs, we have prepared market rules. Currently, we at the transition point from the former vertically integrated monopoly, which we used to have, Uzbek Energo company, which was currently unbundled, to the merchant wholesale market. And since market rules are already prepared, since electricity law is already prepared, we need your support, I mean IFI support, to implement all of this. And of course, capacity building of power sector is also very important, both for Ministry of Energy and our state-owned companies. But also, what is very important to maybe, of course you do that, to promote Uzbekistan as a country who has very big ambitions to develop not renewables only, or not as a country who wants to be a leading country in the region in the energy transition part, but also as a country who has very strong view on overall investment in their economy, in our economy. And the power sector is, only the part of the economy. We would like to show to all potential investors that bringing investment in power sector, it's first, maybe initial step. We just want to show to all other potential investors that there will be sustainable power supply, which is very important, on affordable prices. And it's the right time to invest in Uzbekistan, especially to industry. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, that was a great pitch for Uzbekistan. And I think this is the country that took off about 3-4 years ago, and it's been moving at the speed of lightning. It's amazing things that happened, including the unbundling of the vertically integrated utility, scaling up renewables. So really, really well done. And of course, it was the first country where EBRD developed the low carbon pathway for the power sector, which sort of sets the frame of how things are moving. Moving on to Kyrgyzstan, Talay. I know there is a hydrology issue. There is an issue of affordability. Where do you think the financing part fits? What's needed on your side, but where we can help, where commercial banks can help, and developers? What would be your plea?
Thank you, Aida. In our republic, we have mountainous regions, and we have a lot of oil and gold there, also other minerals. But we need electricity to produce those, to extract those. We need electricity in any case. We have an opportunity to produce clean electricity. Yes, to build an HPP, we need a financial institution's support. As of today, there are many preparations done in this area. Not only Kambaratynskaya HPP1, but also Kazamanskaya and other cascades are also being developed at the moment. Today, the most important problem is attraction of investments. If we will have investments, we will have construction, and we will have electricity. These all are interrelated. To attract investors, we have already made some changes, amendments in our tariff policy, especially the tariffs for renewable energy sources. There are some institutions that are more interested in this area, and we are also interested in this area to develop these projects and implement them. As of today, without electricity production, we cannot imagine our everyday life, because everything is related to electricity. Regarding the issue of natural gas production, at the moment we have started our studies on natural gas production, and there are some investors who want to cooperate with us. In any case, we cannot stop. We should work on these issues. We're ready to cooperate with all the financial institutions to make sure we implement our projects.
And on the EBRD side, I can confirm that we stand ready to continue working with the Kyrgyz authorities on establishing a functional regulatory framework and really scaling up non-hydro renewables and probably small-size scale hydros. Thank you very much. Salman, over to you. Where do you see our role of MDBs, maybe commercial banks and investors?
Thank you very much, Aida. Since this diversion, I mean the development of big projects, non-hydro projects from renewables, for us the new diversion, we are addressing the main role for our development partners and for the international finance institutions, because we have by this support to go through this transaction period, because we need, how to say, our partners has the successful, for example, experience in other countries. To bring this example for our country, it needs, of course, our interaction and our cooperation. Right now, as I mentioned, we are give to them the main role, and with the support of our development partners like UNDP, this year we developed the program of the renewable energies and the construction small hydropower plants. And for the period 2023 to 2031, this is around the increasing installed capacity more than around 800 megawatts, but mainly 700 megawatts. This is from the non-hydro renewables, mainly from solar and also wind projects should be realized for this period. By the support, this document right now under the submission with the government of the Republic of Tajikistan. After the adoption, this project will be the guidance for all our investors, for all our partners for making the new steps and for going forward on and to move on. Of course, right now, for example, we are fully feeling the interest and support of our partners, international finance institutions, as also EBRD, the part of this interconnection. And right now we are working about the development, the 200 megawatts PV solar panels in the north of our country with World Bank, development 100 megawatt PV solar panels with Asian Development Bank, about additional 100 megawatt with EBRD. It is, how to say, the direct answer to your question, what you can do for us. You are already doing, you are already the part of this process. Right now, and also we are considering the construction of the 10 megawatts solar PV panels in the two parts of our country, in the east and the north, with our Korean government. Therefore, all of these partners supporting us in this way, and right now, mainly we are on the stage of preparation. pre-feasibility studies, because as I mentioned before, for Tajikistan, this is the new trend, you can say, I mean non-hydro renewables, and now on the stage of preparation, the feasibility documents. After the preparation and the finalization of these documents, we are going to attract also the investment from our development partners, and also together go through the realization of these projects for development and also till the commissioning. And in this regard, we are already has been signed some agreement regarding the export of these renewable energies from hydro. Also, the power purchase agreement already signed with our country, with Uzbekistan, and this is under the consideration in the, how to say, in the stage of the signing with the Kazakhstan. It means that we bring renewable to our country and makes it, how to say, force it to make sense for all of the region. That's why the role of our partners, EBRD as well, in our strategy, in realization of our strategy and the achievement of our targets is really significant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. And I have to say it's a really great panel. Before we move to questions from the audience, just to say big thank you. You are excellent representatives of your countries making the pitch to the audience with all the renewables, megawatts and gigawatts coming online. By the way, there are Kazakh auctions to be announced in November. Just a little plug there. So on this note, we are approaching the time of questions from the audience. No? No, I don't see any questions. It's been such an exhaustive, full and comprehensive delivery. So, oh, there's a question. Anna, please.
All your intervention, and I will highlight just one aspect that has been missing in our previous conference, the role of hydro. Hydro, small hydro, but hydro in general. And I have been positively surprised by the potential that you have explained to us that there is in your region, first. And second, by this willingness to interconnect. I think that these are the two takeaways. But my question to you is, how does hydro work when we see the Rhine, the Rhine you cannot circulate, one of the big rivers in Europe that is almost dry in summer. How are you addressing this new period for hydro?
It's an excellent question.
Okay, since our country is more in touch with this issue, I'll try to answer for your question. Of course, you are fully right. The negative impact, negative effects of climate change rising in front of our country, a big challenge. You are fully right regarding that the global warming and makes all of our forecast system unpredictable. For example, on the past we could estimate, for example, how much the scope of the water for this river will come, for example, for the every different months, for example, for winter time, for the summer, for the it make our life more easy because it was predictable, it was possible to manage all of our hydro potential. But right now we have the same problem. For example, in the some months we are in 2019, it was a really dry season for us. We even interrupt the export of electricity before the planned period for our neighborhood countries, because this was even to our approximately per year we are exporting about 3 billion kiwi hours electricity to Afghanistan and to Uzbekistan. But in 2019 we interrupt the export of electricity despite all of our agreement more earlier than the estimated period, because it was impossible to continue our cooperation in that way, and it makes it was a great challenge. That's why we are always talking about the glacier melting process. We are talking about the flood season processes. It makes our, for example, the only way in this case which I found, this is cooperation. integration with the regional integration and cooperation with the regional countries. There is no any way to manage this problem. For example, in the dry season, it's good the possibility to import electricity from the countries where is the significant portion of the electricity comes from the fossil fuels. And for the flood season, we can export back. This is the way of the cooperation in this way. But as you mentioned about the role of the small HPP, we are looking for the small HPP, we have the same problems, but the scope of the problems, they are also small. It's more easier to manage this process for the small HPPs. For example, in our country, we use around maybe 300 small HPPs for the remote areas. The role of the small HPPs for development of remote areas is very big. It helps, for example, for the development of social, for the livelihood, for the development, the manufacture, small manufacture in the zones. In this case, we are able to manage more, much better. It's to manage, but in the case of the big HPPs, it makes for us also big challenge. It's only the way of the, making this process a little bit, mitigate this process is interconnection and the regional interconnection. There is no any ways. Thank you.
I would just add something on top of that. I think it's the right time to bring latest technologies on construction of HPPs. For example, in Uzbekistan, we realized this issue that in dry seasons it will be very challenging to produce electricity on HPPs. That's why it's the right time to bring latest technologies, and the target is the increasing of, not the increasing of capacity of these HPPs, but the increasing of value of these HPPs. So of course they will be operating as a complementary to other sources, but this, this portion of electricity should cost much higher. And in that sense, it will be more attractive for investors to bring latest technologies, to construct new HPPs based on that technologies. Because if we look to the future, maybe 30, 40 years, period of time, it's obvious that there will be less water in mountains. And the latest technologies, it's the only way to add more value to these HPPs. And in that sense, we already started to cooperate with champion companies around the world who has such a technologies, and we are about to sign a new agreements to develop such a projects in Uzbekistan, including pump storages. Thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, I'm learning new things talking through this sort of panels, because the hydrology risk is a risk that lenders like EBRD are now actively taking account of whenever we are doing hydro projects. I mean, this is a big, so thank you. Any more questions from the, yes, please, Giampiero?
Thank you. I'm Giampiero Nacci from the EBRD. You've been talking in a number of important enablers to support the transition. Talked a bit about the importance of strengthening, the grids, the regulation, etc. What about the social implications, particularly when it comes to areas which are, dependent on economic activities linked to the fossil fuel industry? So how you see this problem, and how you see the social acceptance, and what you think can be done to support, the transition of jobs, towards more green activities? Thank you.
Ainur, would you like to take this question? I know it's not an easy question. We never have easy questions.
Спасибо за вопрос, очень интересный, глобальный. Один из тех вопросов, которые лица, принимающие решения, всегда держат в приоритете, поскольку понятно, что стоимость киловатт-часа электрической энергии
When we rise the tariffs, it's another different and difficult topic, but we have to separate those. On one hand, any produced electricity, whether it's on a coal power plant with all the ecological environmental standards, or it's a renewable energy source, or hydro power plant that was constructed just recently. If we compare these three, we can say that nowadays, even Kazakhstan, wind and solar power plants, they may be competitors to coal-based power plants, if we're speaking about the new ones, because the environmental code is to be implemented in our country, and all power plants should be in line with those rules. Also, we have some quota for CO2 emissions, and also CO2 emission is going to be expensive in the future. It's not as expensive at the moment as it is planned to be. $20 to $60 will be the cost in the future per ton of CO2. Also, it is a great opportunity for renewable energy sources, because renewable energy source power plants can use this money to invest, because they will not be paying for CO2 emissions. Considering administration of our president and the government, we understand that the tariffs will be increasing every day. It will change the competition in different sectors of economy, which were based on cheap energy. On the other hand, there are households who consume electricity, and there are social vulnerable groups, and we have to protect those groups. It's on one hand, but on the other hand, there is a group of consumers which I was talking about yesterday, such as steel producers and mining companies. They use brown energy, and they will have to pay for this, and their competition strength will decrease if they will use brown energy. They will need green energy too to be competitive on the market. Yes, the tariff will be increasing, but the quality of the electricity the quality of electricity should also increase. When we're speaking about quality, we're speaking about green energy.
Thank you very much, my panelists. Thank you to the audience. It's been very insightful discussion. It is also my pleasure to introduce and announce the next panel, which will be moderated by a dear colleague of mine, Grzegorz Zieliński, who is Director for Energy Europe, our sister team. His team is at the front line, if I may say, of the energy security issues in Europe and the Balkans. And I wish you a great panel, Grzegorz, to you and your panelists. Thank you.